Hi, Chris Christophe here. On our podcast, Relentless Life on Your Terms, special edition in Los Angeles, here with Billy Christophe. We just interviewed a great couple, good friends of ours, Sally and Vikas from SoulCentre and Soul Kids.
They had an amazing message to talk about the importance of wisdom in a corporation, how mindset is really key for the leaders, and to transpire that to their team. So they were fantastic, really great podcast. Hope you guys enjoy it.
Thank you. Hi, Chris and Billy Christophe here. On my podcast, Relentless Life on Your Term, I have two very special guests with me, good friends of mine, Vikas and Sally, one of the best wisdom coaches in the world. Sally does corporate restructuring. We're going to talk about the power of wisdom, the power of restructuring corporates, and working together with your significant other. So what's better than one power couple, we say? Two power couples. So we've got some of our great friends. Boom! So, first of all, to end, we share the love and saying boom, we say that with everything. Thank you very, very much for joining us, Vikas and Sally.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Billy.
Now, you're both the director of a company called SoulCentre.
Yeah.
Which is something I've met years ago. I met Vikas and I actually saw him speak on stage, and I've got to say, it moved me. I loved it. My wife came to me, I really love that guy on stage. I said, Vikas, she said, yes, wisdom is very, very important, something that we love and we cherish in our lives and in our family. What a lot of people don't understand, that it has a direct correlation to successful business as well.
Yes. The truth is this, that the people who lead businesses also work with the same mind that you and I have. I was speaking to Randy Zuckerberg a few months ago, Randy Zuckerberg from Facebook, and I asked her, I said, when you run your multiple businesses, what is your greatest asset? And she said the greatest asset of any CEO, any business leader, any politician is their own mind. Now the mind is like the engine of a car, and the engine of a car needs fuel, and wisdom is the fuel for the engine, that's the mind. So the driver has to have that engine with good fuel to be able to take the car further. And that's why wisdom is the most important element. It's the thought process of the leaders, the CEOs, and that's why when you bring wisdom into your company, the company flourishes. Profits go up, as well as being more significant and offering more service to the clients.
Look, I always find too, people that are wise, and you go back to ancient Greek philosophy and things like that, they seem a lot calmer, more control of their emotions.
Yes.
So they're a lot more targeted, they're more strategic. But more importantly, they're more happy as well.
Absolutely.
Which I think is important. I always see Sally, she's always smiling. I know you two have a great relationship. And Sally, you obviously feel the same way about wisdom. And you're very big on energy as well, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. And I think I was in the corporate world, Chris, for many years, and sometimes you don't realise you're chasing maybe the wrong things. So, I got to a stage of my life where I had everything external. So I had the big car, I had the big job, I had the money. And then something happened in life which made me realise, unless you've got the internal stability, the internal wisdom, then it means nothing. Yeah. So, we all going to go through something. Maybe you get divorced, maybe you lose a parent, maybe you lose a child. There's going to be something in life that shakes our foundation. And at that stage, that's when you realise, actually, it's not about the externals. Because everything that I've got around me doesn't help me in that moment when I need the inner wisdom, the inner stability. And that's what happened to me many years ago, and that took me on this whole journey to understand wisdom. And once you start to understand wisdom, it's almost like the universe puts you in the flow of life. So you get opportunities, you meet amazing people, and the pieces of the jigsaw start to come together. And then you realise, yes, I've got the wisdom, and it's also great to have the externals. But one without the other isn't in balance.
So how would you go about translating that information that you know to people when you come into a corporation to get them in that same mindset?
Yeah. So it's all about inside, how happy do you really feel? And I ask this question, if all of this external was to be taken away from you, how would you really feel? And a lot of people don't think about this question. And we tell a story about, eventually all of us will die, and we know we'll all die, but not many of us think about it. But when we die, let's imagine you have a coffin 6 foot by 2 foot. And imagine a new rule comes out and they say all your external possessions have got to go with you. So then you get this crazy picture of, 6 foot by 2 foot for me, and then you've probably got 4 40-foot containers of your external possessions. And just imagine the picture, it just looks so bizarre.
Yeah.
Because we focus all our life, all our energy on collecting more and more and more. And we forget about our inner stability, our inner wealth. And I explain this to companies, and then they start to realise, actually, yeah, if my CEOs, if my management team are happier inside, if they're stable inside, then the externals still come, but you're not swayed, you know, you don't react as much, you respond to life.
You're seeing a bigger swing towards that, and it's a question I ask Billy. It must be every day to my kids at random. I say, "Are you happy?"
Yeah.
Just randomly. Because to me, probably that's the most important question. So I look at me, she goes, "Yes." And I even say sometimes from 1 to 10 how happy you are. Because for me, that's the most important thing in not only her life, in our life as a couple, but also that what my kids see, what my family sees.
Yeah.
It's all good building wealth, but at the end of the day, what's your point of having wealth if you're not going to enjoy it or be happy or healthy?
Yeah.
And be
And
with
so-
human beings.
I want to bring in another aspect here because I work with a lot of top CEOs and businesses around the world, as you mentioned. And sometimes there is this mindset that if you become happy, then you're not going to be creative. You know, the ambition goes away. And actually that's a misnomer. People believe that you must be unhappy with your results, unhappy with your life or your work to always want to do more. So that is a misnomer. People, that's a misconception. If you look at the history of our planet, you'll realize that mankind has gone through periods of peace and periods of war. And they have been creative in both of those times. However, the greatest creativity has come forth in the times of peace, not in the times of war. Because in times of conflict, in times of unhappiness, in times of discord, you're actually only focused on destructive events. In times of peace, look at the Roman history, look at the Indian history, the Chinese history. When there was peace is when people truly become creative and new ideas come and new inventions come and the greatest prosperity happens. So this is the rule of life. Peace leads to prosperity.
Yes.
Conflict on the inside in a relationship, in a business, in a team does not lead to prosperity. It leads to more conflict. We just grow more of what we have on the inside.
That's unbelievable. You know, I've never thought of it that way, and it makes so much sense. Now I want to ask you something, and this is more of a personal question. I'm happy with what I have, but I'm always striving and pushing for more. I'm not going to say content's the right word. I just always want more for myself and more for my ability to see where I can go. But on the other side, I'm trying to be able to switch off to be happy. Is that necessarily something you'd advise against? As an entrepreneur, as a business owner, I always want better results, more action, more outcome, more impact,
Yes.
helping more people.
Yes.
But it doesn't necessarily mean on this side that I'm not content or happy.
Absolutely, and that's actually how it should be, Chris, that you have to find that balance. There has to be that contentment and that peace on the inside. You have to know what's important for you. And what's important for all of us, believe me, are not things. Things are not the most important things. What's really important for us is how we feel inside, the love we feel, the happiness we feel when we see the face of our partner or of a child. The happiness and the contentment we feel when we come back home in the evening. That's the most important thing, and that's what you don't want to lose. So having that on one side, and then from that base of positivity, knowing that you are valued and cherished and loved and you have a lot and that you're blessed, from that base to go out and be creative. And I promise you, I've actually worked with corporations and they have doubled their sales based on the processes that I've taught them, and they are all wisdom strategies. So this is the new leadership, this is the new world that we're getting into. People are realizing that actually creating success and having the stress along with it is not success at all. Success without happiness is failure. Wealth without wisdom is failure.
And I'm seeing a massive shift now with people are focusing a lot more on health, conscious eating with their team, because they know two reasons they're doing it. Obviously they want their people to be happy, but they know that has a direct correlation to their bottom line.
Yes.
It's not a stressful environment, it's a good stress environment where you know there's going to be stress, but you're going to be able to deal with it a lot better when you have a healthy mind and healthy body. And I think people are really understanding that, and the top CEOs are really performing towards happiness and people's well-being.
Yes.
And look, as yeah.
Can I just ask, when you come into a corporation,
Yeah.
so people can understand a bit more about what you do, is it just with the CEO and the leader that you sit down and explain all this to, or do you actually go through all the employees and help change their mindset as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we start with the senior management team first.
Yeah.
And we need to understand what are the issues, because no two companies are exactly the same.
Yeah.
So once we've spent time with the senior management team talking about their issues, we work at the top first, but then yes, we do get onto the shop floor, and we work with teams, bigger teams of people on the sales floor, because our view is everybody's got to be aligned in the same direction.
Yes, 100%.
And one of the biggest successes we have is like when times are good, everyone's really happy. But it's when times are bad, that's when you see the true colours. And we explain to people it's like the juice of a lemon. When you squeeze the lemon, the juice comes out. So if you squeeze a lemon hard, lemon juice comes out. If you squeeze a lemon hard, it's not orange juice that comes out. So what comes out when you're squeezed? Because that is the true reality of who you are. And often there's a big disconnect. You know, the senior management team think one thing, but then the people on the sales floor think something totally different. So we've got to understand what is the juice of the business that's coming out when everyone's being squeezed.
The message needs to be congruent throughout.
Totally
the whole.
congruent.
And
Yeah, sorry.
sorry, I was just going to say, talking about leadership and leaders, what is the role of a leader? What is the role of a leader? And wisdom says that the first role of a leader is to give people a vision. And throughout history, all great leaders, whether it was of nations, companies, armies, families, they have always given a vision for the future. That's the first role. And after that, it's not just to give them a vision, but it's to create a team, to put together a process, a strategy, and then to keep them inspired. Inspiration is the last bit. Because you don't need the inspiration if you don't have a vision.
You have a direction.
So vision comes before inspiration. Vision comes before direction. Once I know where I'm headed, the destination decides the direction for me. Now, the mindset of a leader is what's going to create that strategy, create that downward flow and alignment for the rest of the team. Leaders of countries set the alignment, the direction for their country. Leaders of families, leaders of businesses. And that is what we want to work on first. It's the mindset of the leader. And wisdom is the highest level of thinking. You see, you have data, and then you have information, and then you have intelligence, and then you have knowledge, and then you have wisdom. Wisdom is about seeing a future that doesn't exist yet. Wisdom is about looking at the long term and realizing that the investments I make now will pay me for 20 years. That is wisdom. So the mindset of the leader is the most important element to transform or change or evolve in a company or in a family. And that's the purpose of wisdom.
And all of this, so everything begins and ends with leadership. And if you're going to start from the top, it can be all the way, as Billy said, a lot more congruent down. And something that you mentioned before, we had a chat prior to beginning this, I think is very important. When everything's going well, whether that be at home or in a business relation, everything's doing well, everyone's high-fiving, money's coming in, everyone's happy. But you're truly tested when things are tough.
Yeah.
And the conversation I often have with my wife, when there's been challenging times, I said to Billy, you're going to see the best Chris Christoshi show up every day at work now. You're going to see us at our absolute best. When I say that a lot to my team because I want to see you when things are tough. I want to see our relationship tested when things are tough.
Yeah.
Like me and Billy, obviously, with a lot of other people that setbacks with my son becoming deaf and things along those lines. Our businesses were struggling earlier on in our careers. That's when I feel we're at our best because we knew that we need each other at our best then, not when things are bad. And one of my mentors said to me, when things are tough, I want my team at 120%. When things are easy, they can operate at 80. I never understood that. He goes, that's when I want to be the extra, when things are tough.
Yeah.
Give me 120%.
Yeah.
When things are easy, I'm happy if you flow on 80. And I never thought of it. I go, 80%, why? Because they're going to burn out. So if I can pick 100 and 100, or 120 when things are tough, and 80 when things are bad. And that was very clever. It was Glenn Warson that said that to me as one of my mentors. And I really thought about that. I thought, wow, that's great knowledge.
Chris, let me give you a nugget of wisdom. We're talking about leadership and hard times, right? A nugget of wisdom. Leadership is tested in hardship. It's not tested in good times. It's not tested in smooth sailing. Leadership is tested in hardship. What are you like when you're under pressure? That's what shows the temper of the steel. That's what shows what you're capable of. Good times, it's easy to be good.
Of course.
But you know, in bad times, to be good, that's the hard bit. And that's how you judge a person.
And I love that. And when they say who are the best leaders, they're gonna tell you some leaders that overcome the biggest adversities.
Yeah.
They're gonna, who's the best president? But they'll tell you the ones that overcame the biggest adversities, that entered the biggest challenges, and that overcame them, which is actually correct. And I love that.
Yes.
And I love hearing those stories. They're very inspiring.
Absolutely, totally agree. And we also work with not just big companies and corporations around the world or CEOs. I mean, that is the level that we generally do the work at, but we also work with children. We have created an entire brand, and it's an award-winning brand, of how to train children to have a positive mindset and to have a very strong belief system, so that as they grow up into young adults, pre-teens, teens, and then young adults, they are going out in the world as confident boys and girls. Because when we are fractured on the inside, or when we are hurt on the inside, that pain can actually carry with us for the next 40, 50 years. And we don't even realize it. So we want to work with children when they are young, so that when they grow up, they actually truly become positive and passionate leaders for others.
And they're good in the community, because obviously when things happen when you're small and you become 20, 30, 40,
Yes.
it really is embedded deep within. But if you start from something at a young age, being a child, you can really set them on the right mindset or the right trajectory to great things, to make an impact in their community.
Yes.
I love that, and obviously it makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
So what's
our
the brand called?
It's called Soul Kings, just based on
Makes
Soul
sense.
Center.
Soul Kids, yeah.
You know, I want to specify here just a clarification, because people think that soul means something religious. We are not religious people. We are based on wisdom. We are based on mindset and training and processes
Soul
and
means soul.
systems.
Yeah.
That's what
Soul is just a word which actually defines the highest potential inside us. So when we talk about soul, we are talking about our highest potential. So we are coaching children, we are coaching corporations, we are coaching individuals, we are coaching leadership to bring out the greatest potential that's inside all of us.
So would you say soul's like spirituality, so to speak?
Yes.
So that's kind of more the...
That's more the alignment. So it's not a religious process. It's actually about understanding yourself deeply, tapping into that inner potential that we all have, and then bringing it out in an effective way. So the line that I like to use is that wisdom is on how to produce maximum results with minimum effort. That's wisdom. How do I produce the maximum results beneficially with the minimum effort? So it's exponential growth we're talking about. You see, this is next level thinking.
And but like what you said before, beside the growth part, it's about being happy, being a well-adjusted human being where you can make a difference to your community, you can help other people. So that would be very rewarding. So let me ask you both, what was it about wisdom that actually drew you into want to learn so much? And now I want to also ask you, Sally, energy is very important to you. It's something me and Billy talk about, because I believe money is a transfer of energy. If you put it out in the right manner, I think it comes back. I say to my kids, everything you do is a transfer of energy. It's going to build momentum, it's going to come back. So you do good things in the community, they're going to come back. And I always say I'm the luckiest human being alive, and I'm surrounded with good people and good things. And I think it's an output of my mindset and also caring about other people.
And you pick up other people's energies as well. So I was very interested in your discussion. We're talking about the elements of people and the energies that they have. I think that's absolutely fascinating. Can you tell us a little bit more, Sally, about that?
Yeah, sure. So I think how I got on this journey was I was in the corporate world, as I mentioned before. And when you're in the corporate world, you tend to focus more on external things. But then when I left the corporate world, I wanted to give back. And you were talking about how, you know, the circle comes back. So I actually opened an orphanage in Thailand. And whilst I was there working with these children who had no access to anything, I started to realise that, you know, they could do things that we've forgotten about. They could heal themselves, they could do all these different things. And I'm a medical pharmacist. So it was one of those moments where you sort of think, there's so much more in the world than we realise. And that's what took me on this whole journey of understanding the mind, understanding the body, understanding the inner aspect of ourselves. So I learned meditation, I started to study the depth of Chinese wisdom. And one of the things that, you know, I talk to a lot of people about is this thing called destiny. And it's almost like at the time you're born, there's an energetic map, which is a bit like a toolkit of what you come with. So it's like, I can explain to you, this is what you come with, these are your real strengths. And if you grow these real strengths, then you go in the flow and the universe is with you. But if you fight against your strengths and if you try and develop something that maybe is not in your chart, then it becomes a struggle. So, like, you know, I've done your charts, right?
Yes.
So you're metal, right? So Billy, you're here to shine, you know, you're here to give structure to life. Chris is water, he's much bigger picture, right? He flows more. He'll be much less structured than you are. And if you start to understand this about yourself and your partners and your business people, you can start to understand what are their real strengths. Like Vikas is the candle. He's here just to inspire and to light the candles of other people.
And how accurate is that?
Super accurate.
It's amazing. I loved when you said that.
Yeah.
That just resonates.
So there's 4 pillars and 5 elements.
There's 4 pillars and 5 elements. And this thing called synchronicity happens because, like, Billy and I are exactly the same, right? So it's like, you know, you could be in a conference of 2,500 people, but some reason you get attracted to similar people.
Energy.
Because energies are attractive.
It's like a magnet, isn't it?
Yeah. And people are always saying to me, oh, what am I? And I can actually tell, but I don't tell until I really do the full chart.
Yeah.
Because then it's better for them.
Yeah.
But then if you've got all 5 elements in your chart, you've got massive opportunity to play with different strengths. But if your chart is unusual and you've just got one element, then you become one of these massive super achievers if you unlock that element.
So yeah, so you said you direct correlations to certain elements. I think you mentioned Billy was certain actresses, and you can actually link, because you can actually see what if you're a certain strength, you can have other people that can complement that strength to achieve more, which is why energy is very important. Because always the first thing you're going to be attracted is something similar to yourself, wouldn't it be?
That's the danger. A lot of companies, the CEO attracts people similar to himself. So you end up with a toolkit of all the same tools.
Because you say something, I like this person, I wonder why, and you walk like, because they're exactly like you.
Yeah, they're exactly like you.
But it doesn't mean in a business you're going to need 4 U's.
Yeah, so how important is it to have different elements in your business?
Absolutely
so
important.
Often in businesses, picking the same person who you're comfortable with is not picking the most efficient person. He or she may not be the most efficient person for the role, right? So you have to look at the energy blueprint of this person, the destiny blueprint of this person, to be able to pick the person for the role.
Yeah.
But energy comes down to leadership also. I'm coming back to that, right? Wisdom works on the mindset of leaders, of people, individuals. And when we actually think from a higher space, our energy is of a higher level. Now, whatever our energy is what's going to come out through our actions. Our actions are driven by our thoughts. Thoughts are driven by our wisdom, and that's what creates the energy. So the process is that how my thoughts are based on the wisdom I have is how my actions will be. And my actions are going to have reactions from others. So if I'm a negative leader, I may be in a very powerful position. But if I'm all about putting people down, if I'm all about being selfish and getting my way, or bullying people or pushing people through just to get my goals, I'll be successful for the short term. Because the blowback from that, the karma comeback from that, as I call it, is that all of those people that I'm pushing are going to push back at some event.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to have more and more resistance. So what am I in? Am I in alignment or am I in misalignment? Why am I thinking such short term?
And it's not pleasant either. Imagine having that. You can achieve goals in many different ways.
Exactly.
But being all in the same page and having the right energy, how much better is that? Doing it with a smile on your face as opposed to, you better do this and this. It wouldn't be a good way to lead. But I think, like you said before, the new age of leading, that's becoming more and more obsolete. That old method, the structured, the bossy method, I think now, you're seeing a lot less of it. The new age leaders understand, I feel, alignment better, understand energy better, understand health better.
Yeah.
And they're getting
You're keeping a
amazing
happy
results.
culture in your corporation, so it keeps people from wanting to leave. So that for a business is very important, keeping your staff happy, your employees happy, and them not wanting to leave.
Yeah. I think the new leader has to become an inspiration. Yeah. The old dictatorial leader is gone. And staff learn by watching you. So if you're an inspiration at work and you're an inspiration at home, and you walk your talk, then that will filter down throughout the whole company.
And there's a great saying, do as I do, not as I say.
Absolutely.
People can say anything, but if you actually live and breathe it, and I think the best example and what I try to set with our children is what we do. We do a lot of great things. Some things we're trying to improve on in areas, but they're going to do what we actually do. I can tell my kid, do this, do that, do that. But if they see me do it every day, there's no better example than actually someone who lives and breathes what they say or what they do for a living as well. Yeah. I think that's very important. Yeah. Someone that's very into wisdom, corporate restructuring, I always ask, how into it are you? Do you research it a lot? Do you live and breathe it? That for me is very, very important.
Yes.
Because they're authentic if you do it that way.
Absolutely. And it's still about producing results. So we need to get that clear, right? Coming from a place of wisdom is not about giving up the results and not caring about them. It's about getting to the mountaintop, but choosing the path you take and not living on default like often the whole world does. It's about first deciding what kind of a person I want to be as I live my life, because that's how I'll be remembered.
Consciously making the right decision.
The first question all leaders in families and businesses have to answer is, what kind of a leader do I want to be? What kind of a father do I want to be? What kind of a mother do I want to be? What kind of a human being do I want to be?
That's probably the most important.
The most important thing. Once you decide what kind of a leader you want to be, the second question is, okay, being this person, what's the best way, most exponential way to produce the results? There's many ways to the top of the mountain. Who says that there's only one way to produce results? That itself is a misconception, and that shows the lack of wisdom.
Yeah, or the lack of being open-minded, I think.
Yeah.
And it's true. It's also what sort of legacy do you want to leave. I think it's very important that if you can get 5 people to say, give me 3 words to describe this person, and you can write the same words, you're in alignment to who you truly are.
Absolutely.
And it's an exercise that we do quite often. I look in the dictionary and they say look up to certain people that inspire you. I do something very different. I look at certain words that I want to epitomise in a dictionary. And if you ask 5 people, give me 5 words to describe Chris, 3 of those words will almost be identical every time. Because I studied them in a dictionary, I go, if I'm out of the room and they said describe Chris, I want these words to be what they are. I want to know what they are. And leaders are the same. You might inspire to results. I inspire to being, like my father, a good human being. The results will come if you work hard and you align yourself with good people. Results is, I think, a sum of hard work and who you surround yourself. But if you're in the office for 10, 15 hours a day, I want to be in the office with people that I enjoy, people that inspire me, that make me happy. Otherwise, you couldn't pay me enough to do it.
Absolutely.
And it's something that we try to do at home too. It's being hectic, got 4 kids, 3 little ones. I want to be there, I want to do it with a smile on my face. Otherwise, is there any point?
Yeah. And another thing to notice now, this is just practicality, right? Why it's so important to have wisdom as your base. We have 24 hours a day. Most of us sleep 7, 8 hours. Most leaders and ambitious people, 5, 6 hours a day. So I have, let's say, 19, 18 hours left. And most ambitious people, most driven leaders will work 10, 12, 13 hours a day. So how much time does that leave for me and my family?
Not much.
Not much, 6 hours, 7 hours. So actually I'm spending the bulk of my day with people I work with. And that's the reason why I've got to be extremely judicious and conscious about the kind of people I surround myself with. Because if I'm surrounded by negativity, if I'm surrounded by anger, frustration, pain, hurt, then that's the energy that I'm feeding myself.
Yeah.
And it's going to toxify me even as I go back home.
Yeah.
Because after all, we are one human being. You cannot live in compartments. You're the same human being with the same mind at work and taking that mind back home. Taking that mind to your children. You go to work, you're the CEO, you can tell everybody what to do. But when you go home and you pretend to be the CEO, guess what happens?
I know what happens.
I know.
You get demoted.
Exactly. You get fired sometimes, right?
No, that's all right. But also to it, you bring that angst, that stress with you, which causes a lot of things.
Yes.
It causes sicknesses, it causes an unhappy life, an unbalanced life.
Yeah.
So, more importantly, is there anything, guys, I know you guys travel Australia, I know you do world tours as well.
Yeah.
I saw you last time in Melbourne.
Yes.
You're coming early Q1 of next year, I believe.
Yes.
So we'll put some information out. I highly recommend going and seeing Sally and Vikas. They're both amazing people, but more importantly, they're gonna enlighten you, they're gonna share things with you to make you happy and a better leader. Bill, is there
We
any?
really appreciate your message that you're getting out there, and for corporations that really want to have a happy team, it's so essential. And the Soul Kids, I absolutely love that. So it's amazing what you're doing, spreading that message. Thank you.
SoulCentre, Soul Kids, please look out for Vikas and Sally. Thank you very much for joining us on our podcast and finding a great location as well, Sally.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank